Hey, yo, this is Big Daddy Kane, and you're listening to another hot interview on The Library with Tim Einenkel on rapstation.com.
Look, what's my motivation here? Remember, I played Hamlet at Cambridge, and specifically in my trailer acts for only pink jelly beans. Pink, yo, holes in cars, images of fake facades, holograms appear like a desert mirage. Who's really in charge when a director screams cut and throws his hands up? The rose is over.
He spent the past decade and a half perfecting his craft as a DJ/turntablist. He's a graffiti artist. He's a member of the world-famous Rocksteady crew. And he's the DJ for Rozelle. He's toured the planet doing over 1,200 shows in more than 50 countries and hundreds of cities. His new album is called It Is What It Isn't. It's Ground Original 4. He's the one and only DJ JS-1. And I want to welcome to the library with Tim Einenkel on rapstation.com.
What's up? This is DJ JS-1 and the world-famous Rocksteady crew. And yes, I've been blessed to put out several different albums over the years. The new album is It Is What It Isn't, because it definitely is what it's not. And just happy to be here, and we'll talk some hip hop and some graph.
As you said, the title of the album, It Is What It Isn't, comes from the lack of credibility as many artists falsely portray themselves today, especially using social media. The culture they pretend to be what they're not, right? Why create this album now? And then also, how are you seeing people falsely portraying themselves, and how does that hurt the culture and the art form?
Well, for as far as just making the album, I've just been putting out albums, maybe one every 2 years or so for the past 13, 14 years. And this one, as I make my music, I mean, it's all kind of the same style. It's my boom bap, I guess, underground, 90s, all this, whatever you want to call it. So I was going to put out an album regardless. And recently, over the past few years, everything is really kind of based off of likes and views and followers now. Everything is pretty much, that's what people look to see, like, who's popular, and that's how they judge it. And with the with technology, it's not like back in the day where you had to go in a studio, pay for the studio, and actually press vinyl. So now everybody can kind of make a song and just throw it out there to the world. So when it's based off of likes and views and followers, and everyone has the ability to join the race and put songs out there, it's like, okay, so now we're at the point where it's like, what do you do to get the likes and the views? So artists are now looking at themselves, like, where their managers and the PR people telling them, like, you need a viral video, so I look at artists now, it's like everybody wants to be the cat that fell off the couch. That's kind of how I look at it. And in order to be the cat that fell off the couch and get this viral video, you almost have to do something stupid. The world doesn't want to, you don't get the views and likes by, like, wow, this guy's really talented. It's usually not the case. So what I see is it's a lot of, like, people posting stuff. It's like, hey, did you see this guy? Like, he's got a crazy haircut. Hey, you heard about this rapper? He sounds like this rapper. And it's like, well, that's not good. That's not a good thing. But it's getting the views. Or, like, this guy's got, like, weird facial hair, and he wears pajamas. And you're like, well, okay, but what does that have to do with anything? Or, like, I was at a show and this guy was, throwing roast beef off the stage at people, and it's like, okay, but what is the song? It's it's like TMZ based, so right away, you're looking at, it's not about the skill, it's not about the integrity, the originality of where they came from, like, did they pay their dues, how did they get there, how's the live performance. It's all about, like, he sounds like this guy, or he looks crazy, or he did something stupid. And it is what it isn't. It's not, we were doing music all the way up. It was always about those other things. And people would shun and mock that stuff. There was a guy, Gorilla Black. He sounded like Biggie. They shunned him immediately. Like, this guy, your career's over. He didn't get a lot of views. I mean, it wasn't internet-based back then, but it's not like everybody was like, I got to hear it. He sounds just like Biggie. And it's like, well, that's bad. And everything is just totally different now. So it's really like, it is what it isn't. I feel like for me, that's why I didn't even do a video for this. Is I'm like, nobody wants to see a video with quality, good stuff in it, or like I have to just do something idiotic. And I'm like, I'll just put the music out. If you like the music, you get the music. I don't want to have to like throw myself down a flight of stairs in order to get views, which is almost what it's come to. It's like, did you see JS-1? Like, yeah, he stripped naked and threw himself down a flight of stairs. Like, I got to get this guy's record. So that's really what it is. What it is, it means it's just it's everything that it's not, which is skills and originality, integrity, and that type of stuff.
It is what it is, and it's the fourth installment of Ground Original. Just quickly, how does it fit with the concept of the previous three installments?
Okay, well, when I first set out to make my albums, I was just really trying to get the MCs that I love and respect and like on my albums, and to especially a lot of the MCs that I know. I happen to know a lot of these guys from over the years of just being at different events or doing shows with people, and then also pairing up some of the older legendary MCs with some of the newer MCs that I like, trying to get some of the West Coast MCs I know, Midwest MCs, female MCs, and really give a good mix. And that's pretty much what I've done, on most of the albums. Like getting on the No Sellout album, I got Cool Keith and Said G. I got an Ultramagnetic feature, which not an easy thing to pull off. And like this one, I have Brother J and Professor X. Rest in peace, Professor X. But it's putting a new X-Clan song together, which that's obviously not going to happen. And getting the artifacts together on a song, and just trying to pair up stuff that I would want to hear again, or that I always liked, and I don't see maybe other people doing it as much. So it's just trying to get a good mix of quality MCs. Also bringing in, a lot of people throw the word underground around loosely, and for us, when the indie movement was starting in New York City, and it was 88 Hip Hop and the Cyphers in Washington Square Park, and the original Fat Beat Store and the Rocksteady anniversaries and all this stuff, there was a group of MCs like Breeze Bruin, the Juggernauts, and these kind of guys, and the Pack of Femmes and the Wordsworths and Punching Words, those kind of guys that people sometimes forget. The C. Ray's Wallses, a lot of the other guys that do producer albums, they want to get the bigger names than some of the newer kids, and that's my roots, so I never really forget those guys, so I always try to include them on the album. And then people that want to be themselves, like a Homeboy Sandman. I love him just because he's himself, and he has his own thing going on, and I appreciate that, because that's the underground stuff. To me, that's what it was all about. It was not trying to sell a lot of records. It was just doing whatever you felt and throwing it out there. And if people like it, they like it. And so I'd get somebody like a Homeboy Sandman or Rashid Chappelle, who's new now, and that's pretty much how it follows the format of the other ones, just mixing and matching and getting the people that I love and respect.
I want to get into the album in a moment, but I'm always wondering, obviously MCs, because they use words, obviously, it makes it easier for the listener to know, make sense of their content. So we know when a lyricist is calling out another lyricist. Obviously, this happens throughout this album, especially it's highlighted in the record Show Shocking, featuring Elder Sensei, Tame One, and Reef the Lost Cause. But as a producer / DJ turntablist, how do you make sure that what you want in the track is being out there? Like, I mean, is it something like Sample Abuser, where you still have lyricists as well, or is there something else that you're doing that we're not hearing?
That's interesting that you say that. That was one of the things that I always something was always on my mind, since I'm not rhyming on a song. It's like, how do I get my point across and my feelings or what I want said? And there's different ways, when I've the first song my first thing I ever put out with KRS-One, Essentials, we actually sat and had a 2.5-3 hour discussion, and he specifically put stuff in the song that we talked about, and he kind of was almost being my voice. And what I learned with him is that he was asking me about what I wanted the vibe of the song to be like, and I had told him a song of his that I really like called Feel the Vibe, Feel the Beat. And I was like, whatever mode you were in when you did that song, I want you in that mode in the studio today. And I ended up using that as kind of a format with a lot of guys. I would reference a song that maybe they did, and not tell them, like, we're not trying to copy that, but the feeling and the mood that you were in that day, if it's an angry, aggressive song, like, we're going to go this angle. And then, I have conversations with a lot of these guys, and they know me. I mean, I think that's a big part of it. These guys kind of know me pretty well, most of them. And they know where I'm coming from. They know what I want, said on a song for the most part. I do tell them, here's the concept of the song. I'm trying to go this route. We're trying to speak about this type of stuff. Sometimes I do give them, I'll write out references. Like, it would be great if you could speak about this, this, and this. Sometimes they listen. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they kind of do it in a roundabout way. But there is definitely a process and planning that I do try to push my will onto these guys. Like, look, it's my album. And I always bring that up. Like, I pick all the beats. I don't really let them dictate which beat we're going to use. A lot of guys, they'll do like the beat CD and be like, pick which one you like. But I'm usually like, no. This is the one I want you on. Even when they don't agree sometimes, like, but I would like this one. I'm like, yeah, but it's my album, and I want to hear you on this. And that also helps push them towards the mood and the vibe of the song. And for the most part, most guys do, like I said, they know me pretty well. And, we have private discussions and jokes and stuff back and forth, so they know where I'm coming from, and they know what I like and what I don't like, who I like and who I don't like. So they do kind of, like the Sample Abuser song. I mean, we've definitely, sitting with AG or Sadat or Neek, like, they know exactly, what producers I liked and who I wanted to speak about and what kind of equipment we use and don't use. And, like, they knew right away what to speak about. Like, OC is a really great example. Every time I record with OC, we make the whole song together. And it's a really in-depth conversation about what's going to go on. Like, he's even asking me specific lines. Like, you like this line? Do you like that line? And that's why I like all the songs with OC a lot. Same thing with this one, the Turn the Table song, about the history of all the different DJs. And we were really, like, in tune and sitting in the studio making that one together. It wasn't... Oh, yeah. A lot of this stuff we were, definitely. It wasn't like, like when Brother Jay wrote his song, like, we did that at Premiere Studio, actually, and, we were sitting in the room, like, he was like, do you like this? Do you like that? Like, check this out. And, if I don't like it, I've learned to voice my opinion. At first, I was a little skeptical, but once the first song I did, and KRS was telling me to criticize him, be like, do you like this? Like, if you don't, and I was kind of like, what do I say? It's KRS. He recorded and he was like, do you like it? I'll do it again. If you don't like it, like, tell me. Do you want me to change it? Like, did you want me to change this? And I was like, you're KRS. Like, I'm not going to tell you how to rhyme. But, it gives me confidence to say that and speak up to these people. So, but everybody, like I said, everybody knows me. So I guess that they're pretty much my voice, and they've all done a pretty good job. I can't say that there's... And if anybody did something I didn't like, I wouldn't put it on the album. So we'll leave it at that.
I want to talk about the progression of the album, but first you did mention the song Turn the Tables, featuring OC and the legendary DJ Red Alert. And it's an ode to the best hip-hop DJs and reminds us of the importance of them in the culture and to the music. One, why start off the album with this record? And since there aren't many hip-hop DJs left that produce their own albums, if at all, how has this aspect hurt the culture creatively and just from a cultural perspective?
Oh, that's great. We might be here for 3 days speaking on this. Well, I mean, first of all, coming from a DJ background and a DJ who's I like to think that I do it all. Like, I've done parties, done touring, do mixtapes, and I like to do the turntablist stuff. I love scratching and been a fan of the DMC stuff and following that. The DJ is... back in the day, it was the DJ first, and the DJ brought the MC with him as, like, the sidekick. Then, of course, it changed over the years, and now it's all about the guy rhyming and the DJs. A lot of these guys, the newer guys, they don't even have DJs, which is sad. So when I put this album out, it's like, okay, we're at a point now where the hip hop DJ is really kind of left behind. It's a lot about the electronic dance DJs. A lot of those guys aren't even really DJing. It's kind of like a light show and a guy doing exercise on stage, jumping jacks and stuff. It's really strange. So,
the video goes viral.
Yeah, but the video does great. Like, did you see him? He had fluorescent glasses with lights, and he was doing jumping jacks. It's so crazy. It sure is what it isn't. And so I wanted to pay homage to the guys that we grew up loving. We go to the park jams every year, where it's our chance to be around a Grand Wizard Theodore and a Jazzy J and Red Alert, and obviously OC knows and respects that. And he was one guy that I could trust that would. He always is my voice. When we do records, like, he says exactly what I wanted to say on the song. So that's why I definitely asked him to do this song. And we just felt like for the younger kids that might buy the stuff, like, it's good to show them the history and speak about it and still keep it alive. Like, I'm a tradition guy. I like trying to keep that vibe going. When I do the shows, I still scratch and cut it up, no matter what people say. Like, the girls don't like it. I'm like, no, they like it. They just didn't see anybody do it the right way, And it was important then to put it first, not to just hide it like near the the middle or the end. That's like, no, I want to highlight this. This is for us, And like he says, it's left up to the DJ. And I feel that a lot of the DJs, they don't really take their job serious because you control what people hear and don't hear a lot of the time. And sometimes they just go and they're just playing a playlist, or they're being a jukebox. Like, yes, you have to cater to the crowd, but when I grew up, the DJ broke records. And now it's like you're the cool DJ if you just play the same records everybody else is playing, and that's silly to me. It's like the DJ should be a voice, and he should be a voice for the good artists that are trying to get out there. You have enough with the major labels and the program directors at radio stations fighting against trying to keep everybody out. So you would think that the DJs would step in and kind of help support these artists that are out in the streets with them, because a lot of the DJs, they come from the same places these artists come from. So I'm always trying to, promote the DJing part of it and push it. And another thing that's really important, and why I make these songs about DJs, is that since the DJs, there's not that many hip-hop DJs left, or DJs that still stick to playing the stuff that we like and appreciate. A lot of it is like stripper music, and it's just really a lot of nonsense. What happens is that a lot of the songs that are made, they're not made for DJs. See, if you listen to some records made in the 80s and 90s, there was the reason that there was more hip-hop DJs cutting up these records and scratching them and doing those types of sets is because the records were made for that. There was an intro with a drum roll or a hard hit or a sound or a bang where you could scratch that part. Now it's like it comes in as like some weird, overproduced R&B intro, some weird movie sample. The guy just starts rapping right away. There's nothing for the DJ to mix in. The guy rhymes to the end of the song, or it's like some weird stuff at the end of the song. It's not like when you would listen to these other like sucker MCs. DJs love cutting that up. Why? Because it comes in, boom, bap, 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 bap. So everybody would do the routine with the beginning of that song. But now it's hard when a song comes in and it's just some guy with, singing a little bit. It's like, well, what am I going to cut up? And then the flow of some of the records, they're not made for DJs. So it's kind of also trying to show the influence of, like, look, these guys were cutting up these records because they were made for DJs. That's another reason that newer hip-hop vinyl doesn't sell as much as old-school hip-hop vinyl and breaks still, because DJs have more fun spinning that stuff. The newer stuff, it's harder to spin because it's not really geared for a DJ. It's meant for an iPod listen, or it's meant for a Pandora listen. It's meant to just, you click on your laptop and you listen to it, but it's not really meant for to be put in a mix. And that's kind of really hurting the hip-hop DJ as well. So I'm always going to keep, paying homage to the DJs and trying to push that on people and keep that going. So that's why that song's on there. I kept it to under a 3-day minimum.
I was curious about, like I said, the progression of the album. With the exception of OC and Razkaz, you seem to start the album with quote-unquote newer artists, and then by track 10, we started to hear from the quote-unquote older artists, right? We had a Buckshot, Rozelle, KRS, Greg G, Smooth B, and much more. how did you decide the order of the tracks, and also how did you decide when each artist would appear and when they would be together on each track?
Well, first, in the process, just putting the songs together, as far as which artist goes with which artists, that really comes from it's like a vibe kind of thing of who I feel would sound right on the song, or sometimes who I trust to get on the song. Like, I like Torre a lot, and I like his voice. I like the way he rhymes. I like what he says, and I believe Torre hasn't recorded a song with KRS, so it was nice to pair, somebody older that I like with someone newer that I like, that I trust to get on the track with KRS. I knew that he would do it justice and that he would fit the concept, because there's a very specific concept with that song and the wordplay. So it works out, it's kind of a vibe, just how I feel who would fit on certain songs. And then once the songs are recorded, as far as the actual way it's put on the album, it's really a feeling thing. Like, I'll take all the songs and I'll put them in. I'll either put them in my Serato or just load them up into iTunes, and I just kind of play around with the orders to see like the flow. Like, when I knew I wanted to put the OC song first. That was the ode to the DJs. I wanted to come in with that. And then from there, it wasn't really so much of like who was on the song specifically, more so of sometimes tempo. I don't want to come in with a song that's slow and then go right to one that's super fast and then back to a slow one. So I kind of like to build up a little bit. But it's mainly just tempo and then just the vibe. If maybe one song is a little bit more mellow or jazzier, I'll try to maybe put 2 or 3 of those together somewhere in the middle of the album, and like to switch the mood up and then go back to another, to switch the vibes up as you go. There's not really a total dead set format. I just kind of feel my way through it, and I play around with the lineups. I'll be like, oh, let me try this in track 2 and see how it feels, and I build it that way. And then sometimes I will say, like, yeah, I'd like to end the album with this, or like there's a song with a bunch of my friends from the neighborhood on it, and it's a fax of backwards, right? So it looks like ST calf on the, but it's fax backwards. So I use the Nas cut. Your fax are backwards. And I did want to put that last. Just, it's my friends to close out with my friends on it. And also, that was like the end statement. It's like I open up with the DJ song, but it's like it is what it isn't. So I wanted to close with your facts are backwards. Like, it is what it isn't. So that, like, little things like that do have. I wanted to kind of take the beatbox track with Eclipse from France and put that somewhere in the middle of the album. I didn't want to like put that at the very beginning or the very end, because there's only one beatbox thing on the album. So I kind of like putting that near the middle. So little things like that. But it's basically just on the vibe and the flow. How it flows through. I'm big on that, because that comes from mixtapes. I made a lot of mixtapes, and it's a flow of when you listen to something sometimes, or even DJing a radio show. Sometimes I'll start off with the slower songs and build my way up to the up-tempo ones, or start out up-tempo and wind it down as it gets on. So I try to do that with the album as well.
That's interesting. You talk about it's like an instinct, because it seems that all the great DJ turntablists have that. You ask them, like, what's the secret to making this beat, and they're like, oh, it's just an instinct. It's something that came up. DJ Newmark and I were talking about him and Slim Kid Trey's album, and I was like, well, how did it work? Like, how'd you make that beat? And he's like, I can't explain it. It just, something happened where I'm listening to the beat, I was like, that'd be hot, right? Like, that would be hot. So it's just like, so when does that come? Like, when does that, I don't know, like, kind of like that, that sixth sense kind of thing. Like, when does that come for you?
First, you mentioned Newmark, and just he's a friend, and I love Newmark. That guy's super talented at everything he does. So just wanted to say that I love that guy. Well, I guess you kind of always have this instinct. As far back as I can remember, when I first got my first cheap samplers, or was even just trying to start out DJing, some people just have a knack for, like, these two records mixed together well, or like this, you just hear, you're going through stuff, and there's just something that it goes off in you, and it's like, oh, that's the part that I'm going to sample, and I know that's going to fit, and then you're like, oh, those drums are going to fit with it. It just kind of comes, and then when you're making stuff, there's that moment when you know, like, this is it, or like, this isn't that great. You know, it's almost just like that feeling when you hear a certain song and the hair stands up on your arms. It's like you don't know why it's doing that, but it just struck something and you feel it. So it is really difficult to explain. But I could say that something that helped me out personally was the validation of when you do stuff and then you see other people like it or agree with you. You know, I remember when I did the first song with OC, I remember Pharoah Monch seeing me at SOBs, and he came over to me and he was like, that song you did with Omar, like, that's, like, oh, man, like, I like that. Like, you guys need to do some more stuff like that. And then when you hear that, you're like, all right, I'm on to something. Like, I'm not crazy. Like, those little instincts that were going off when I was putting this together, like, I'm right. You know, when KRS came to me and was like, yeah, like, people were telling him, like, they liked the stuff that he did with me. And then he came and we recorded a bunch of stuff together, and I'm like, okay, I'm on to something. People are understanding what I'm doing, and they're agreeing with me. I'm not crazy. Because, you know, sometimes you don't know. You think it's good, you feel it's good, but until you actually get the people, and especially the people that you love and respect and you value their opinions, you know, because there's a lot of kids that are like, I love your stuff. You know, you're a great DJ. And I'm like, well, why? What makes me great? And they're like, yo, you're almost as good as, like, you know, DJ Clue. And I'm like, wow, okay, this guy just doesn't get it. You know, like, all right, so it's like that compliment, it's cool, but it has no value to it because they really don't even understand. So when people that know and you respect them and they're validating what you're doing and telling you you're doing the right thing, then the next couple of times when that instinct kicks in, you're like even more confident about it. You know, and so you're like, I get even more excited now when something goes off in my mind, when I hear a sample, I'm working on something. Now I'm like really excited because I know that I'm doing the right thing and that I can't wait to see who else is going to appreciate it. As opposed to when I first started and I was more of like, I hope these people like this. Like, I feel like I'm doing the right thing. It feels good to me, but I hope they like it. So that was that's a big thing to me, the validation point.
I imagine it's also like you're getting co-signed by people that actually have their credibility is at stake, right? So if they're saying, you know, JS-1 is doing this thing, and then people are like, wait, what are you talking about? Then they would kind of be like, I want to talk about the track Give a Damn featuring Dynasty, who I like a lot, Eternia, and Sarah Connor, three powerful female MCs. First, why an all-female record? What stood out about each of these artists that made you want to put them three together? And then it seems like it's the only record featuring an all-female cast. Why is that the case?
Well, first, you know, there's multiple male MCs everywhere. You know, there's a lot of female MCs, and it seems that, you know, having these discussions with my male friends all the time about MCs, you know, it's hard to get a lot of the times to get them to bring up the females. You know, it's always male based. It's like, I love this dude, this guy, that one, this MC, and they don't always bring up the females. And times that they do bring up females or the females that are popular, you know, you see what a lot of it is. They're selling sex, you know, it's the booty this, booty that, I'm half naked, that kind of stuff. And, you know, which is nice. I don't mind looking at it. It's cool. But as far as the skill part of it, there is a lot of really, really good female MCs. And since my albums I kind of put together what I like and talent, I figured, you know, this time I want to get... I had Eternia on the last project with Howard Razcast, but I was like, you know what? Like, I want to, like, really make noise with it, and I think I'll get the point across even more how much I appreciate the female MCs if I put just only female MCs on a song. And then I also realized that the female MCs, they don't always, like, pair up and do songs together. It almost seems like not that they're competing with each other, but I guess since there's not that many of them, they're all trying to fight to be the female MC, I guess. You know, not that they have problems with each other, but, you know, it's so I don't always see the females getting together and making multiple songs with just females on it. So I'm like, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna put these females together, and I went and got the ones that I happen to really like. I mean, there's others. My verse from Rocksteady Crew, she's really dope. But the three that I got together for this album started with Dynasty. I love how Dynasty sounds on a record. You know, she's really talented. She's not trying to do nonsense, and I respect her as an MC. She's down in Florida, but she's originally from Queens, so that had a little special thing for me. You know, being from Queens. And you know, when I reached out to her, she was with doing the song. I was very happy. She set it off. I had Eternia on the last album, and I love what she does. So I went back to Eternia to get her on this. And the reason I really respect Eternia is because one time I was DJing at the Brooklyn Hip Hop Fest after party. And there was a whole bunch of male MCs getting on, and they were doing like a freestyle kind of session. I was playing beats, and everybody was getting on. And I seen her on the side of the stage, and I didn't know who she was at first. And she was saying she wanted to get on the mic. So I was like, all right, you know, let's see what this girl's about. So when she got on the mic, I can't lie, I tried to throw her off. So I had a really easy beat on for everybody, all the guys that were freestyling. So when she got on, I switched it up and started cutting up like really up-tempo break beats. Figuring like, all right, let's see. If you're going to come on and rhyme, I'm like, all right, let's see. And she was killing it. Like, she turned into Big Daddy Kane on the mic and was just ripping it. And I was really, really impressed. And then after that, I was like, okay, look, like, we got to stay in touch. If I do anything, I got to get you on something. So this time around, I called her back. And Sarah's somebody that I had met through Tila Rock's brother in the Bronx, like 1991. I think I know her since. She's been rhyming forever. She does the battle rap circuits, and she's just really talented. And I like her because she's raw, like she's like real street, and she doesn't bite her tongue for no one. I love the stuff she says. And we've been friends for a long time. She was in my house freestyling and rhyming. We've done a few shows, and I just never got to get her on a record. So I was like, this is the time. I need to bring Sarah in to close this one out. And I'm very happy with it. It was cool to also use a female MC light for the scratch on the scratch hook. So there's also, it's all female. And I guess the side joke is that hopefully they don't hear this and sue me, but the little I don't give a damn, that's actually Jodeci, so that's for the ladies too. I've got a little Jodeci in there for the ladies. And yeah, I hope to see, you know, more people reach out to these MCs and get them on their albums. Just because you know, it's male based kind of thing. Like the females are killing it. Like they're excellent. Those specific MCs right there, those three girls, are just as good as most of the male MCs that I know on stage and with writing songs. So I'm just trying to, you know, promote that and get that out there. So.
When you told each of them who they would be on the song, did they take to it right away, or were they any hesitancy on each of them, or were they the type of MCs that are up to anything, open to anything?
Well, to tell you the truth, no, I don't. None of them have a problem with anyone. But I could say this in general with all my songs, is that since people are accustomed to seeing me do songs with a lot of different legendary people, I'd say that not them specifically, but I think everyone, every time I ask them to get on a song, are hoping that, like, it's going to be KRS, or like, is G-Rap going to be on this one? You know, I mean, they didn't say that to me. I have had other people like come up to me and be like, hey, listen, yeah, I'd love to do a song on your album. Like, you think we could do one with MOP and Cool G-Rap? You know, and it's like, no, I got, you know, like when people found out I was doing a bunch of stuff with KRS, like everybody was like, yo, is like, you got any room on any of those KRS songs? And I'm like, don't worry, I got it worked out already. But no, they were definitely happy to get on the song with each other, and it worked out great.
I want to talk about another record, Die Hard, featuring Eric Sherman, Rozelle, and Buckshot. One, how did this record come together? What were the recording sessions like? Also, as mentioned, you're DJ for Rozelle. When working with Rozelle, the human beatbox, right? I mean, that's what we know him for. How do you prepare in terms of producing that? Like, how do you discuss like what sound effects he'll do? Is he the type of MC that would just like hear a beat and then go from there, and then you have to kind of adjust accordingly? I mean, how does it work? How does everything work?
Okay, well, for this song specifically, obviously a huge EPMD fan, and love Eric Sermon for not only his rhymes but his production too. He's definitely one of my favorites. So it was a goal to try to get Eric Sermon on. I didn't really know Eric Sermon. I knew PMD. But I got a chance to meet up with him and talk to him. And it was excellent because he kind of dug what I was doing. I told him, about the other albums and who I had on it, and he was down with recording. I told him, like the beat's going to be, something similar to like what you guys would have rhymed on back in the day. It's not, it's not trying to make a new sounding record. It's something that's, sounds EPMD-ish to me. And he was totally with it. He understands I'm trying to make the hardcore hip hop, and he did his verse, no problem. It was exactly what I wanted. Then at that point, I didn't know who I was going to get on the song yet, and I always, of course, I always get Rozelle on my projects, but I usually get Rozelle beatboxing. And this time around, he's also super talented MC. And not everybody's, always aware of, like, what he can do on the mic. And they expect him to beatbox every time. So this time I was like, Ra, like, you're going to do a verse on this one. And then I told him I got room on the Eric Sermon song. And he was like, oh, yeah, I'll definitely, it's Eric Sermon. Of course, I'd love to get on that. So I got Rozelle, and then I was like, I need somebody else who's going to fit this. I was like, okay, I didn't record with Buckshot. Let me get Buckshot. He'll sound perfect on this with these guys. And I let Buckshot know. So him and Rozelle actually recorded. It was either the same day or within a day from each other. And so that's why they mentioned each other, because they already had knew that they were going to be on it and who was going to be on. Eric Sermon was on it first, so he didn't know that the other guys, so he didn't mention them. But it was it's also, once again, just trying to see who fits the vibe of like that style of beat and that era of stuff. And they both nailed it, and I was happy to get Rozelle to rhyme on this one, not just just beatboxing. Of course, I've been with him for so long, and working with him it's interesting because as far as rhyming, I don't really get into. I just let him do what he does. He writes his rhymes and rhymes. But as far as the beatbox stuff in the studio, it's cool because I can kind of throw stuff out there, and he can just kind of do anything. So it's awesome. He could be in the vocal booth and just doing something, and you'd be like, yeah, maybe throw like a like some kind of like humming, like a harmonizing thing, and it just comes out. Like he's just, it's like if I could talk to my NPC, and just be like, yeah, just make a bass line, and he just, it's really awesome. And being around Rozelle, what's really cool is all the van rides and all the sound checks where he does stuff that he just doesn't normally do in public. And it's just incredible to be able to just to see the stuff that he could really do. It's awesome because there's a lot of stuff that he works on and tests out that he just doesn't do in the shows. And for whatever reason, I guess he's just saving stuff, or he's just whatever. It just that's his thing. And I got to see all of this stuff, and it was like when we were touring with Supernatural, and we'd just be hanging in the hotel, and he just decides to freestyle for like 2.5 hours straight, and I'm just sitting there just soaking it all up. We're just hanging in the room, and he just whatever, something's on TV, and he just started rhyming, and it's like, wow. Or sound checks with those guys where I'm like, why am I not videotaping the sound checks? Like, just doing full routines in the sound check, and you're never going to see it again because they just made it up. And it's like, I got to see it, but oh man, like, people need to see this. So that's what's really, really cool about being around those guys. Rozelle is just a very rare talent. There's a lot of people that beatbox that are great, but his background, where he comes from, and what he knows, like his hip hop knowledge, and that low end that he gets in his beatbox, that a lot of the guys, it's very high pitched stuff. Like his low end and them hard drums that he does, it's just a very, very rare thing. And I'm just blessed to be around it, and I soak up every second of it. And I do have a lot of good video footage that people would kill to see.
Yeah, my introduction, how I introduce people to Rozelle is my wife, who loves this one particular thing, is the "if your mother only knew." Yeah, and I was like, no, he's doing everything. Yeah, he's like, he's doing it. And then of course with Supernat, the way I introduce them is his freestyle wordplay on Sway and Tech when he does H2O, and then he goes H2O aquatic with the flow, and then he goes that, and I'm like, no, he's doing that too. I want to continue on with It Is What It Isn't. We're speaking to DJ JS-1, new album, It Is What It Isn't. Love Me Not. Features Curious, Craig G, and Smooth B. It talks about hip-hop as a kind of on-again, off-again relationship. So for you, what keeps you pursuing this relationship with hip hop culture? And do you think there will be a time where you won't be frustrated in this relationship, or is this kind of just what it is? Is this like, are we always people who love hip hop, are they always going to have this on again, off again relationship?
My relationship with hip hop, I'm like a battered husband. Oh boy. Well, it is. Well, first, let's talk about the song. You know, as far as the song, I'm definitely, obviously a big fan of those guys. Craig G's been on, I think, if not all my albums, almost all my albums. And we're just good friends, too. Like, Craig is great. He's a guy like, well, we'll go catch a Met game together. Like, he's, Craig's great. So, in putting this song together, those guys, I just felt like their voices and the era they're from, they would fit together nice on a song. And if I'm going to talk to people about the love-hate relationship with music and hip-hop, those guys have been through it, so they understand. I didn't want to get the newer guys because a lot of those guys are still excited and happy and think they're going to be Jay-Z. So, right. I'm like, I don't want to ruin your life yet. Like, I'll let you figure it out on your own. So, so just, speaking to those guys, they were down with the idea. And, obviously since, back in the day when Common did I Used to Love Her and using the hip-hop is the woman. So just kind of playing off of that. And, I kind of let them kind of go on their own with it. I didn't really tell them, like, you have to say this or you have to say that. It's just kind of how what their take would be. And, it is a love-hate relationship just in general because you first of all, I mean, everybody got into this because they love it. And when you get into it, it's pure. You just love it because you love the beats, you love the lyrics, you love the culture, you're happy to be around it, you want to write the best verse, practice your scratches, and be as good as this guy, and find the best sample. And then you realize, like, once you have that stuff, you're like, okay, well, now I want to get it out to the world. And the minute that you do that, there's a business involved. And that's when the first bit of letdowns and frustration comes into play, because then you start realizing, like, yeah, these stores won't carry it, or this person won't press it up, or this label doesn't like you. And those guys, I mean, they've dealt with real record labels. I've been independent my whole life, so I never had to get signed to a record label and they shelf me or just never send me the check. So that's, like Craig says, which is one of my favorite lines on the album. He says, "It is what it isn't, like a royalty check from Prism," which is just brilliant. I mean, that's really great. And I never had to deal with that part of it. So for me, I had a decent business experience just because I actually got the checks from Fat Beats, which was nice, and I control my own destiny with my records. But the part that you start to dislike is where you realize it's about promotion and it's a name game. And like now where we're at, with the views and likes, like I was saying earlier, it's like, they want me to be the cat that fell off the couch, not just a talented DJ. I got to do something silly. And it's the same thing with a lot of these guys. It was, you have a great album, but it's how much, and even if it's on a major record label, but if there's no huge promotion budget, nobody knows about it. And then you start to get frustrated when you just see other guys, becoming huge, and they're promoting selling drugs and negative stuff. And these guys aren't negative. Their music was positive. A lot of the guys on my album, it's not really negative music, and it just seems that the negative stuff is always what does well. So you start to get frustrated at that. Then you start to see the show aspect of it, and you're like, well, I'm going to do shows. And then you go to a booking agent, and the booking agent says, hey, listen, if you get a lot of shows, come back to me and I'll book you for shows. And you're like, wait, you're the booking agent. Like, you're supposed to get me shows. And that's what they all say. Go get some shows, and then we'll book you for shows. And you're like, okay, I hate this. And then you start to get very frustrated. And for myself, it is definitely a weird thing because my success comes from my negativity. I try to explain this to people all the time. There's the yin and the yang. Everybody's a yin. I enjoy being a yang. I like that. It's cool. The world's a big place. Everybody can't be the let's all get along and love this and I'm just going to do this. I like coming in and being cynical and being a little negative and a little sarcastic. And I'm the underdog guy. I like the Mets. I'm not a Yankee fan. Got it.
Well, yeah, I'm a Yankee fan, but
No, I understand.
better than we are.
Yeah. Oh no. Right now, I'm happy with that. But we'll see. There'll be a way that they mess it up, and I know that already. And I'll enjoy it, And this is just the way it works. I'm a Knicks fan. Like I know, I've lived 40 years, just never seen a title. They won it the year before I was born. Like it's just not, And they're gonna win the year after I die. I got it. It's just this is how it works. So I enjoy that. That's if you look at my albums, it's no sellout, and it's me posing as a homeless person with a pizza box that says no sellout on it. The next one is No One Cares, and it's me laying dead on the cover. The new one is It Is What It Isn't. So I enjoy coming from that angle, and there's people that get that. There's people that are on my side, and they look to my stuff for that. So yeah, it's like I do hate a lot of the stuff that goes on, but I love hip hop in its purest form. Like that's what I love. I mean, hip hop is pure. There's nothing wrong with hip hop, and good hip hop exists. Like there's great b-boys and b-girls. The Rocksteady stuff is great. Rozelle beatboxes all over the world, and people love it. I Can Scratch Records, people love it. DJ Scratch is still DJing. Jazzy Jeff still does what he does. Mixmaster Mike, Q-Bert's still cutting it up. There's still really good stuff. It's just that the stuff that's popular is nonsense. So we always fight against it. I'll still be here fighting that battle as long as I live, and I enjoy that, although it's frustrating. So it's weird. That's kind of what keeps me going. It's like if you win, it must be boring. Like for a guy like Jay-Z, it's hard. I can't imagine how he would just sit in the studio and really have a great vibe to make an album, because a lot of the great music and hip hop, it came from struggle. It came from, when these people were in the Bronx and they didn't have nothing, and that's part of where it came from. You were excited to go to the Park Jam in the park. That's your release, and the MCs are just having fun with it, and you're coming from a place of struggle. So when you're on top of the world, it's like, well, what do you really rhyme about? Everything's great, and then if you do rhyme about your lifestyle, like who wants to hear that? Then you got a Bentley and your bank account has 4 million zeros and everything. Like who cares? Like what does that do for me? So I kind of like being in this position where I'm at. I have a modest living, and my career is okay. I'm comfortable with it. I'm fine. I've achieved my goals. At the same time, it'd be nice to do more, but you still, I stay in that middle ground, and I fight that battle. I like saying underground. People are like, there's no such thing as underground and commercial. It's just old. And I'm like, no, there's a scene and a vibe. We're not making our stuff specifically to get on the radio. We know where we're at. We like to stay below the radar. That's underground stuff, and we're happy. And we mock the other stuff, and that's where I'm at. I'm like, I'm that guy, and I like being that guy. It's cool.
I want to talk about the artwork in a second, but I want to continue with this. You ask people about you, and they say that you're saving hip hop. But do you think hip hop culture is in danger, especially if rap music continues producing the commercial content it is producing? I mean, how strong does the rap content of hip hop culture have to be, or the rap element of hip hop culture have to be, in order for hip hop culture not to destroy itself? Or are the other elements just, can the elements just be as strong as they are, and hip hop culture will be fine?
Well, it's really tricky to me. When you look around, and you see what's popular, the young kids, they're only getting a chance to see a lot of the negative stuff. They get to see the Bobby Shmurdas and the Shmurda dance and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, all right, you got a young little kid, and he's talking about how much drugs he sells and how many people he shoots on his block. And, although there was always some violence and drugs and stuff in hip-hop, it just gets to the point now where it's like it's just everything is coming out based off of this stuff. And it's hard to combat that. So the younger generations, we have to try to keep showing them the other side of it, and it's difficult because there's not as many outlets for us anymore. And one thing that does hurt is with this style of stuff, and this I guess I call it the commercial stuff that's so popular. Overseas was always the safe haven, and everybody would always run to Europe and run to Japan and run to Australia and these other places because the hip hop scene was better there. And it was, and it still is, but it's also changing there because as the younger generations come in, it's also since the culture is so popular, the hip hop thing got so big that it's reached the mass media in these places as well. And when we first were traveling overseas, it was interesting. It was really, really about like the real good stuff from here, and all the commercial stuff wasn't over there. Now when I go back over there, like, it's there, and like the guys that are big here, they're big over there, and the radio stations are playing, like Tim Westwood's yelling Dirty South and playing stripper music, where he used to be playing Pharoah Monch and Razgaz, and a lot of those artists are copying the stuff they see here and making that kind of stuff. So it's definitely hurting, and it's not as big. It's not going to be as strong. I do see it taking a hit. It's been taking a hit, and it is getting smaller for everywhere across the board. I'm not going to mention names, but a lot of the artists that we love that tour overseas, they might not want to say it for fear of hoping it'll affect their money or their image, but the shows are smaller. They're getting smaller. The money is getting less. Even for the big name indie guys that we love, it's not as big as it was. It's definitely taken a hit. And, you look at the newer generation, these guys we don't like so much, and it's growing over there. It's definitely growing. So it's hard, but at the same time, it's never going to totally go away. It's just like, it's sad, but I look at it as just like, like doo-wop music or stuff from generations past. Like, it didn't go away. It's still around. Look at the, like, in the 80s, they had freestyle music, Judy Torres and Cynthia and Coro. Like, that's not hugely popular, but it's around, and they do okay, and there's people that do it. So I feel like a lot of the stuff we do, it's kind of heading towards that, where it's just like, it'll really be like an underground scene. It's just not going to be that popular. Like, yeah, Taylor Swift has B-boys in her new New York video, but probably not the right ones. I mean, I don't know who she got. Maybe she did, but probably not the right ones. And it's, some of the little kids will see it, but they won't go back and learn the history and learn where it came from. They're not going to, they don't care about Freeze, and they're not going to look, maybe they'll see Crazy Legs because he's a little bit more out there, but they really go back and know who Ken Swift is and some of these other guys. And so it's very, very difficult. It's about promotion, trying to push it out there to these younger kids, because everything is really about the kids. We're just going to keep getting older and not be in the scene and then die, and it's going to be left to the younger kids to keep pushing stuff on. So that's why it's important where, like, a guy like Crazy Legs, he's very smart. He has tons of young kids in Rocksteady Crew that he put down, like good quality kids as people. Make sure they get good grades in school too, but teaching them the history and teaching them what they should do to carry this on. And it's great because there's a bunch of them, and they're really young. Some of them are really, really young kids, and they're going to be around. They're going to keep that legacy going. And I hope that a lot of other organizations in hip-hop do the same. Like, I know Zulu Nation tries to bring in a lot of younger kids, and that's what you really need. You really got to get to the youth, because most of the youth is going towards the Bobby Shmurda dance. And you have to bring these people and teach them, so when we're not around and we can't keep doing this, look at DJ Premier, look at DJ Eclipse. These guys, they're 2 shows on Sirius, and Eclipse's halftime radio show. They're one of the few shows that are very popular for the underground stuff and that movement. They're not going to do that forever. They're getting older. They have kids. They're still doing what they do, but there's going to be a point where they're not. And if there's nobody in training and no one that wants to do that behind them, that's a major, major loss. So we have to kind of figure out a way to bring some of these other people in and school them, not always shun the young kids. A lot of the old school guys or older guys are always kind of like, these young kids. But there are kids that are interested, and you got to kind of mentor those kids and keep them around. But it's definitely very difficult. I mean, I don't see it growing. I guess that's the way I could put it. Even if it stayed where we're at, there's like freestyle sessions, big b-boy competitions and stuff. But if you look at the DJ battle aspect, DMC, I love the DMC, but they're having a harder time getting people in there. But now Red Bull is doing their big battle, very corporate, and they're bringing, and they got the press. McDonald's has a DJ battle. So you see what happens is, the evil people kind of figure out a way to get in and infiltrate, promote their products and their stuff, and the people that were really doing it hurts. So I don't really see our side growing. Hopefully we could at least stay where we're at, but it's sad because it is shrinking. So I don't know. It's hard to say what the future is. It's sad, but I know as long as that I'm doing it, and as long as I'm around before I decide to just totally quit and run away from everybody, like, I'm gonna keep doing everything I can to promote what we do and the tradition of it.
Well, it seems also that the artists that kids are copying today are their career longevity is nil. I mean, there's no way you're going to be like a 50-year-old guy talking about sneakers and stuff, because no one's going to believe. Obviously, no one's going to believe you. Yeah, because you also might have arthritis, so that's going to be massive pain. JS-1, I want to go into the artwork of It Is What It Isn't. I was curious, is it based on your YouTube video titled Graffiti New York City Freedom Tunnel? Because it seems like you have two figures, I'm assuming you. One is a DJ, one's a graffiti artist. Is the positioning of the figures where the DJ's in the forefront and the graph artist in the back, is that on purpose? And what is each importance? What is important to each of them?
Well, for those that don't know, which is probably everybody, I've been doing graffiti. I actually started doing that before I was DJing. I started that, I don't know, 5th, 6th grade, whenever that was, in the mid '80s at some point, and and that was one of my first hip hop passions was doing graffiti. And I was always doing that in the background as while I got my turntables and was practicing, and that's actually where the JS-1 comes from. It's a graffiti name. I wrote Germs, Jerms, and when I would actually go out and bomb on highways and stuff like that, I just shortened it to JS, and the 1 just means I was the first one to write Germs. So that's where the JS-1 comes from, and my whole life graffiti's always been a passion. And something that I've done. I never really tried to do it to make money. So when I was touring and doing a lot of the DJing stuff, that had to come first because that's where I was getting my money from. But in the background, there was always this graffiti writer in me, and I would always do it. And it wasn't something I always promoted just because, well, first of all, it was illegal. And it was something, there was problems with different crews and different neighborhoods and stuff. And I never wanted my DJing stuff to really be associated with that. And recently I decided to take a little break from touring because it was just too much for me, and I just went full force now that I've been back in New York for a while with my graffiti again. So over the past few years I've been doing just hundreds of pieces everywhere, and from the Hall of Fame up here in Harlem to different track spots that aren't necessarily legal, but that's what we do. and it's just something that I always loved, and now it's also taking on a new battle for me. There's this new term, street art, and everybody's talking about street art. You see it on Instagram and all these street art projects, and I love art. I love all kinds of art, but street art kind of has a connotation to it that it's like something from the street. And we always felt that graph writers, we were doing street art. And the stuff that these people are doing, it's a lot of stenciling images. And that's kind of more like art in the street. And we kind of do street art. And what happens now is that these people they're taking images from the computer and stenciling it on walls. And graffiti writer in traditional New York graph, it's about lettering styles and letters. And they kind of shun the lettering. A lot of these places, they want the person to come and stencil Marilyn Monroe or a pretty owl, and it's cool, it looks nice, I'm not against it, but at the same time, it's a problem when they don't allow the traditional New York street artists to come and showcase the lettering styles. I don't know why, if they think it's gang related or they can't read it or they don't understand it, but that's an important thing, and we can't let that die out. The same way as we were talking about hip-hop DJs, and there's not as many DJs that are willing to scratch, and it's more about what the newer kids are doing. We don't want the newer kids to see that and only do that, and the letter styles to die out, because that's what it was all about. You know, from the 70s on, it was, you're a graffiti writer, you wrote your name, and these people are just taking someone else's images and stenciling it, and it's not what it's about. You know, a lot of these people moved to New York from outside of New York because it's the cool place to be. And what made it so cool was some of the graph that we were doing for years. That's part of the cool vibe of New York. And now they're trying to do away with it. So it kind of hurts. So we're trying to fight that battle. So I've been promoting myself and my artwork now, my graph more. I'm more open to, like, you know, yeah, this is me, this is what I do. And we just constantly keep doing it. And on the cover this time, I wanted to explain to people, like, you know, yeah, I've been doing this for a while, and, like, you know, not to sound corny, like I'm the hip-hop guy, but it's like, yeah, listen, I've tried to master two of these elements and really go far with it. And yeah, the graffiti writer was always in the background, and that's a picture of me actually doing something illegal, but that's, you know, the essence of a graffiti writer. And I'm also I'm also doing a piece on that too. I'm not just like doing a throw up or a tag. I'm like actually in an illegal spot, but doing it like something nice. And that's important to me. And then in the forefront is, you know, the DJ, how everybody knows me. And that's always, and if you can see, even the tracks are like coming from my head. Like the way, you know, it's like it's always on my mind. You know, tracks, whether it's music tracks or train tracks, you know, it's always flowing through me. And I just thought that was a perfect way to, like, really sum up who I am. I mean, that's really who I am, you know. And I just finally wanted everybody to see that. It's funny, a lot of these hip-hop artists that I work with, they never even knew. And now when I, you know, show them all this stuff, they're like, that was you, that's you, like, you do this, like, it's really cool. And it's just great to be able to showcase that. And I love artwork, and now we're also getting paid for it. You know, we've been doing a lot of commissioned work, which is great. We were just recently on Profit on CNBC, and they showcased our graffiti on there. And, you know, I've been doing, you know, painting stuff in gyms and auto body places and this. And the sad part about it is they actually pay me 10 times more to do that than to DJ in New York City. Outside of New York City, the money's okay DJing, but in actual New York City, they pay me probably more than 10 times what I would get to DJ here to paint the wall. Yeah, well, I don't DJ in strip clubs, and that's where a lot of these guys are DJing. And, you know, otherwise it's like lounges. And it's cool because my friends get to come and they hear good music, but they're trying to pay me like 3% of the bar tab. And my friends, they smoke weed, they don't drink. So the bar tab's not going to be so great. It is what it isn't.
It seems like you talk to artists, and there's always this, they're multi-talented. I mean, obviously you're a turntablist, a DJ, but you're also a graph writer. I mean, you talk to Charlie Tuna. He's an incredible, I did not know that, but he's an incredible artist, as well as a great lyricist. But for you, how does being a graffiti artist and also a DJ, how do those two elements for you influence each other? And then do you like pull from one element to aid in creativity and the other element, or do you not? Like, how does your mind work when it comes to the creative process?
Well, first of all, Charlie Tuna is an excellent artist, and I wasn't aware of that until one point we were on tour together, and I was drawing in a book, and he looked over and was like, oh, you write graph? You do that? And I was like, yeah. I showed him a few pictures, and he was like, look at this. And then he showed me, and I was like, what? I'm like, how are we together on these tours, and we're not doing stuff? So, like, that's one of our little side goals, is eventually to get together and kind of paint a wall together. So, shout out to Charlie. But as far as the two going together, there's nothing directly that I put together, but there's just an overall thing. For myself, you know, I'm a competitive person. It's like, you know, if I play my son in tic-tac-toe, like, I'm not letting him win. Like, I'm like, look, we're going at it. You know, this is how it works. Right. Like, we set up the Nintendo Wii, and, like, I'm winning. Like, we put on the bowling game, and I'm going to win this one. So and being competitive, I've always had this thing about my crafts and the talents, is that I want to get better. You know, I never understood the guys that say a guy's been DJing since 1983, and it's like, okay, you're DJing 32 years, and you didn't get better since, like, that first year that you've been DJing. Like, how is that possible? Man, you've been DJing for 30 years. Like, if you gave me 30 years, I could become an Olympic diver and an astronaut. You know, like, this, how could you just not learn how to mix two records together? So like, it's very frustrating to me when I see that, because it's a process, and you love to learn. Like, I'm always, as far as like the graph, like, I'm learning different techniques and different things and different letter styles, and like, oh, I'm going to do my 3D this way, or you see something else somebody did, and you're like, oh man, I got to beat that. Like, I got to try to figure this out, or he did this design and it was so amazing, and always like just looking through the old graffiti magazines and books and learning and wanting to know more. And it's the same thing with the DJing. Like, I would always look to other DJs and see, like, oh, he did this scratch. Like, how did he do it? Like, oh, I got to learn that, or I got to get this routine neater. I got to be able to just jump on stage and just be able to go right into my stuff. I don't want to have to warm up. I want this, I want that, and I'm just still very much like that. It's more of like it's like I love it so much and I want to get better, and not to get better to beat anybody else. It's like I challenge myself. I'm always my worst critic, you know. I do something on a wall and I'm like, I messed up there. I could have did that better. Same thing with my albums, or like DJing wise, I'll watch myself, like, video footage from a show and be like, man, like, I could have nailed that so much better. I could have did this better. So it's just like the wanting to progress and be perfect at it. You know, I'm mastering those two different elements, and that's more of what it is. It's like a drive to just want to get better at it, because I really genuinely love it. Like, I study it. You know, I study graph, and I study DJing, and I'm very much in tune to what's going on and why people are doing what they're doing and how to get better at it. And then I just say, as far as the two things together, like I said, it's not like, you know, my letter styles influence my scratching thing, but there is one thing that I think definitely for myself, that where the two meet up, is I'm very much on freestyle. When I go to a wall, I don't have a sketch. When I'm on stage and I do my, I guess you call them routines, they're not a preset routine. You know, if you watch the DMC competitions and they do like the 6-minute DJ routine, you know, obviously they need a routine. They can't just go up there and do whatever, because it's 6 minutes. But they have a routine. Like, they know, like, okay, I'm going to put this record on. I'm going to go into this and go into that. I more kind of have records I know I love to scratch, but don't have an exact set thing to do with those records. You know, I'd rather just throw on the beat and just cut and go nuts. Even myself with Rozelle, like, we have things that we definitely do during the show, but sometimes it's just kind of like, I'll just go with this, so just do that. And I just feel more comfortable doing that, because I'm good at what I do and I'm comfortable with it. And if I feel that there's a routine, I feel like I'll mess it up. I feel if I have a sketch, I can mess it up because I'm not following the sketch. If there's no sketch, it's just what's in me just comes out on the wall, and I just kind of work it on the wall. I'm comfortable freestyling it. So that's where there's something that the two definitely, I'm more of like an off the head kind of guy. How Supernet kind of, his writing skill isn't as good as his off the head stuff. He excels at off the head. So I look at my graffiti and my DJing more as, I'm not good with a sketch or a preset plan. I'm more of like the off the head guy with those two things.
So before we wrap up, what's next for you, and the best way for us to continue to follow your work, and of course pick up It Is What It Isn't and everything else you've done?
I'm going to leave here and just lay down on the street. This is it, folks. Like, it's all over. Right. Then we'll have that viral video. I just send all the money to my son. All that Pandora money. Right. My son's going to get a check for $140 for 10 billion spins. Where are the money? Well, you know, I'm not... a lot of people keep asking. It's funny too, just to show you attention span wise. I've seen in a lot of on a lot of websites, people, the common thing is they're like, "So you just dropped this album?" They're like, "When are you going to come with number 5?" And I'm like, "I just put a 20-track album out with 45 guys on it like 2 weeks ago. What do you mean number 5? Like, whoa." So, I mean, honestly, I'm not sure if I'm going to do another album like this. I will release other music for sure. I might start releasing singles, and then just over the course of time, if I have enough to make it an album, I'll add a few songs and make it an album. I'm gonna probably do some probably release a single that's graffiti related. I have a few things in mind. I don't want to give everything away, but I'll probably do some more stuff linking my music and the graffiti together. And then I'm also working on a DJ set that's graffiti related. I'm not going to give everything away, but it'll be a way that I can, in a really cool way that nobody's really done before, to combine my graffiti and my DJing. And hopefully, when I'm ready to go back out on the road, I'll bring that out with Rozelle. And right now it's just my plan right now is just to keep painting these walls and doing as many pieces as I can. I guess maybe one day I'll put them all in a book so everybody can see everything. But it's definitely I'm in graffiti mode. I'm trying to paint constantly. I've been painting constantly, and that's definitely something that's where the heart is at right now. Like, that's what I really feel like when I wake up in the morning. I'm running to do that. Of course, music is something I'll always do, but I'm slowing down on the music product. I'll always be DJing and always working on stuff, but right now it's just slowing down on how much music product I try to put out there, and then figuring out ways to link my graph with the music. And as far as anybody that likes my stuff, all 7 of you could you're allowed to follow me. It's cool. I'll accept your request. Now you could. The best thing to do, honestly, is to Google DJ JS-1, because then you can see the variety of stuff that I have and all the different albums. But I have 6 different albums available, and you can get those all on iTunes, just under DJ JS-1, the number 1, not O-N-E. And you could do that too, but I prefer the 1. And at DJ JS-1 on Instagram, and you could see all of the graph pictures and all of the artwork that I do, some of the canvases and these walls that we do. I post all the stuff on there. And Instagram's visual, so I don't like to annoy people with music and food and sneakers on Instagram. Like, I'd rather give them some artwork to look at. And I just like to say thank you for listening to me, babble about hip hop and graffiti. And anybody that listens to this, obviously we're on the same page. And just, thank you guys for supporting the stuff that we do. And we're going to keep doing it. And hopefully you keep fighting to keep that vibe alive. And somebody's got to do it. We can't all do this murder dance. And let's just keep it going. It's pretty good right now. And hopefully I'll see a bunch of people at some upcoming events, Rocksteady anniversaries and park jams and all that kind of stuff. And I'll have a can of paint in my knapsack.
The one and only DJ JS-1 new album, It Is What It Isn't. Thanks so much for taking your time to talk in the library with Tim Einenkel on rapstation.com.
Thank you, and peace.
When you play this at high levels, net begins to swivel. We live metal and thrive on the schedule. Come on, y'all. Yo, let's take this shit back. Grab the mic and represent. I never sell out. We are internationally known, and I'ma let you know. Worldwide, it's authentic hip hop. Yo, let's take this shit back. You pick them sellout flows and hope to sell out shows. We are internationally known. Party rock is your shocker of rap techniques. I was under MC raised with Def Jam ways. 80s baby, Cold Crush parents back in the days. McCall Breaks and Curtis, takes from Harlem World. Dapper Dan, MCM Soups and Jerry Curls. The Wop Freakin' the Beacon, Ruby D the Puerto Rican. Special K and Teddy Ted. Crazy legs and rock steady heads. Like devious doors, up rock cover. Instead of the song, I needed a beast with ugly boosted rugbies from Benetton. Mr. Magic, Super Blast. Chuck Chill Out and Red Alert. Pete Rockin' Control. Marley Marl putting the work. Uncle Ralph, Big Kid, Hot Tracks with Carlos. Gray Beepers, Suede Adidas, Bally's, Wallows, leather caps and lumberjacks. Gucci Louis bags around the neck, pouches. Reaches for Chiba, reaching for Chiba, trays and ounces. Club 88 sensations, the Jersey version of Latin quarters for entertainment. Back in the days, ish. I wish it was that. Back in the days, ish. Come on, y'all. Yo, let's take this shit back. Grab the mic and represent. I never sell out. We are internationally known, and I'ma let you know. Legendary worldwide, it's authentic hip hop. Yo, let's take this shit back. You pick them sellout flows and hope to sell out shows. We are internationally known. Party rock is your shocker of rap techniques.
Philly the illest is what I rap partially. Let's face it, y'all need to hang it up like wet laundry. I turn into a giant like Calypso. Shout out my brother DJ Eclipse though. He was instrumental in getting me this instrumental. Smoking on an ounce, wondering where'd my rent go. Rappers saw this shit but never say what they meant though. This beat got me on my simple type pimp flow. Welcome to the shit show. Rip flows, get dough, get low. This ain't Skrillex, this ain't Diplo. This that crime rap in the visions like a blind cat drama. Wherever I'm at, Jersey, dirty Jersey, what up? It's your neighbor with Grey Goose spilling out the cup and we getting bucked, that's no question. Shout out to my boy DJ JS-1.
Come on, y'all.
Yo, let's take this shit back.
Grab the mic and represent. I never sell out.
We are internationally known.
Yeah, and I'ma let you know. Legendary, worldwide,
It's authentic hip hop. Yo, let's take this shit back.
You kick them sellout flows and hope to sell out shows.
Internationally known. Party rock is your shocker of rap techniques.